Hey there, welcome to the tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how to make this long flowing maxi dress that I made for my vacation I just took. The supplies you're going to need are a tank top, a tracing wheel, tracing paper, a ruler, knit fabric, and a pen and pencil. To determine how much fabric you'll need, you measure from your shoulder to where you want the hem of your maxi to hit plus 1.5 inches. Multiply that times 2 and divide that number by 36. That'll tell you how many yards of fabric you'll need.
So go ahead and lay out your paper that you're going to use to create your pattern and grab the tank top that you plan on using. You're going to get your tracing wheel and a pencil. I like the neckline for the front part of my tank top, so I'm only using the front part. So I'm going to fold my tank top in half and get the back out of the way. And I'm going to use the side seams of my tank top to just kind of fold it in half, making sure that it's even. So the front part of my tank top is the only piece that I'm going to be using from my tank top to create my pattern. So I've got my tank top moved up to the top of my pattern paper, and I've just left myself about a couple of inches up here room, and I've tucked the excess of fabric from my tank top up underneath here. So the only thing that you'll see is half of the front of your tank top. So grab your tracing wheel, and we're going to trace all the way around your tank top right next to your fabric. Don't worry about adding any seam allowances. We'll do that later. Okay, so I can see the perforations very clearly on my paper. You probably can't, but I'm going to go ahead and cut it out using my paper scissors.
So the first thing we're going to do is to add a grain line to the pattern piece. Using the bottom hem, since that's the straight edge, go ahead and add a grain line that is perpendicular to the straight edge to the middle of your pattern. We'll extend that line later on when we create our dress pattern.
Just want you to grab a ruler and just get a measurement of the bottom of your piece. Mine is 9 3/4. So what we're going to do is slice this into thirds. We're going to create hinges in our pattern piece, and I'm going to divide this 9 3/4 of an inch into 3, so that's what, 3 1/4. So I'm just going to make a little line at 3 1/4 and 3 1/4 on the bottom of my pattern piece here. So the little markings that we just made, dividing your pattern into 3, we're going to extend those. You're going to extend your markings all the way up until you reach the edge of your pattern piece, but you're not going to cut through it, you're going to extend it to it. So we're going to use a pencil to do that first. Make another straight line at the other marking, and that one is going to go to the armhole. So your pattern should look like this at this point. You should have a grain line, and you should have 2 markings that you're going to cut to create hinges on your pattern piece. So right now I'm going to take my fabric scissors and I'm going to cut my pattern piece on the hinge lines that we just created. I'm cutting to where it ends, but not through. So when you're finished, it should still be attached to the rest of the pattern. It should just be a hinge. And I'm going to repeat the same on the other mark. So make sure you have your pattern piece placed in the middle of your pattern paper. Make sure that it is anchored down properly. You can tape it to your paper. You can use pattern weights, whatever you like.
So now we're going to spread our pattern, and this is why you want to make sure it's in the middle of your paper. You're going to spread the distance between those wedges at about 2 inches. Now this is why it's important that you use 58 to 60 inch wide fabric, because your dress won't be as full if your fabric is not wide enough. So just use a ruler, or you can eyeball it, and spread your pattern about 2 inches or so apart. However much distance you put between your wedges, just make sure that it's equal. Okay, so grab your yardstick and place your yardstick at the top of your side seam and measure it down the length that you need. So whatever measurement at the bottom of your armhole, all the way down to the hem, plus an inch for seam allowance. So go ahead and draw that line out. Then go ahead and square across to make sure that you've got your hemline straight.
Since I've already measured at the side seam, I'm simply just going to draw a line using my ruler, and I'm going to connect at the hem that I've already drawn. So I'm going to finish tracing out my piece up around the neckline and the armhole. And you're just going to trace directly along the edge of your pattern.
So before you move that pattern piece, go ahead and extend that grain line onto your larger pattern that you just created. Okay, y'all, I am so sorry. I could not find my Sharpie during filming, and so I had to do everything in pencil. I know that these lines are really, really hard to see, but I really hope that you'll still be able to follow along with the tutorial. So the last thing we have to do is just add our seam allowance. So I'm starting at the hem because I gave us an inch for our hem. So I'm just adding an inch and retracing my new line. And then I'm going to add a half of an inch to the rest of the pattern. So just remember as you're sewing that you're going to be sewing the rest of the pattern or the rest of your dress with half an inch seam allowance, and your hem will be 1 inch. So just go ahead and add that to your pattern and then cut your pattern out.
So go ahead and lay out your fabric with the folds facing you and right sides together. And you're going to cut out 4 pieces for your dress. So you're going to cut this out twice to create 4 pieces. So now that you've got your first 2 pieces cut out, save yourself some trouble, or a little bit of time, and just go ahead and pin that center front seam. Since it's already in place, it's already laid out for you. And that's going to be the first seam that you sew anyway, so just go ahead and pin it in place.
Then just scoot your fabric up in place and do the same thing for your back pieces. Cut it out, pin it together, and then go ahead and sew those seams that you've just pinned on your front and back together. Alright, your pieces should look like this. Your front and back will be identical, and you should have the center front and center back seams sewn together. Next, lay your pieces right sides together and attach them at the shoulder seams. The rest of the dress is very easy to construct. All you need to do is sew your side seams together, then sew a half an inch hem around your neckline and armhole, and then remember you have a 1 inch hem at the bottom. Make sure to press all of your seam allowances, and you are done. I'd love to invite you to join my newsletter where I share resources, tips, tricks, and my latest DIYs that I post on the blog. You can also join my Facebook group where I'd love to see what you create with my tutorials. I also have sewing classes, my own collection of digital sewing patterns, and fabric available for sale in my store. I will provide all of the links to all of this information in the info box below. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.